Morgan, you're giving us the breakdown. What happened in those during the middle of the night, on the night of the election? They stopped counting votes.
Well,
and then what happens?
That's right. They stopped counting the votes, and I don't know if you guys noticed something, but, I mean, there was an absolute rush to call states for Joe Biden. In fact, the second that the polls closed in California, Oregon, and Washington, they called all three states for Joe Biden. They had counted 0% of the votes at that point. Now, granted, we know those are the left coast states, and we know those states are probably going to go for Biden, but they called them instantaneously for Biden. Meanwhile, as we watch, they refuse to call the state of Florida. You know, with something like 98% of the vote being reported in and it being so clearly won by President Trump, they refused to call it. They also refused to call the state of Georgia. Now, you could say, well, Georgia looks kind of close right now, and we're going to hopefully talk a little bit about that. But Georgia and North Carolina, they refused to call both of those states. There's no question North Carolina has been won by President Trump. There's a deficit that Joe Biden cannot overcome there. The votes actually were all counted. They just have refused to report them, and they apparently are saying they won't report them until November 12th. Now, why the rush on the networks like even Fox News to call states for Joe Biden and not call states for President Donald Trump, including Pennsylvania and Michigan, Wisconsin, and the others? Now, we see in Arizona, they called Arizona for Joe Biden, and over the past week, we've seen that lead, supposedly, that Joe Biden has there, dwindle down to almost nothing, and they've still got about 100,000 votes to count, and there's less than a 20,000 vote difference there as we're going on air, and there may be some updates coming later today. But the point is, that state is too close to call. That state is going to go into probably a manual recount, just like Georgia is going to go into a recount. And why were the networks rushing to call states for Joe Biden and not call them for President Trump? That tells you something. This was a coordinated effort by the media, absolutely coordinated effort. For another example is Alaska. I mean, President Trump is leading 2-1 in Alaska. He's absolutely running the tables, and they still won't call Alaska for President Trump. They won't call it because they don't want you to understand that President Trump won this election and that this election is a lot closer than what they're trying to make it appear. They're trying to say he only has 214 electoral votes, when the reality is they need to call Alaska and they need to call North Carolina. That right there gives them 232 electoral votes.
Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.